afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome everyone. I welcome you for the third session of the day. And this session we have Dr. Ashok Verma from Attract Mumbai. And to chair the session, we have my colleague Dr. Deepti Ghatne, who is an assistant professor of pharmaceutical analysis at Bombay College of Pharmacy. Dr. Deepti, please take it forward.
Thank you, Elvis. It gives me an immense pleasure to welcome and introduce our next speaker, that is Dr. Ashok Verma. Uh, the organizers, can we have the slide, please? Structural biology, structure-based drug design, protein DNA interactions, and protein dynamics are Sir's areas of interest. Dr. Verma obtained his PhD degree on the topic X-ray crystallographic studies of biomolecules from Jivaji University, Gwalior. After PhD, Sir joined world-renowned scientists like Professor G.R. Desiraju at Central University, Hyderabad, and Professor T.P. Singh at AIIMS. He has received very good postdoctoral research experience at Harvard Medical School, Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, Boston Biomedical Research Institute. Sir has excellent experience in molecular biology, protein biochemistry, structural biology, and bioinformatics. Dr. Verma is currently Principal Investigator and Scientific Officer G at Actric, where he maintains an active and a result-oriented research laboratory. His laboratory is young, enthusiastic, result-oriented, and highly motivated towards research. Currently, there are 7 PhD students working with him on structural and functional basis of cancer-associated proteins. 6 PhD and close to 50 MPhil, MSc, MTech, and BTech students have submitted their dissertation under the able guidance of Sir. He has more than 40 publications to his credit. Sir is a very good team leader and has experience on organizing several training programs, seminars, and workshops. With this brief introduction, now I would like to welcome Dr. Ashok Verma, and please proceed with this session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your very kind introduction. Really, I'm very.
Sir, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
So we can hear you, but the voice is little low.
Can you hear me now?
It is better than before.
Better. How is now?
It was much better, sir.
Much
now
better, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind introduction. Really means you introduced me in a very good way. So I'm really thankful for this. And now I will share my presentation, I think. So I'm sharing my presentation.
Okay, sir.
So can you see this?
Yes, sir. We are able to see the
first slide. So
yes.
So I will request all the participants to forgive me because this is a digital world, and in the digital world, in case if I'm slow or some connection problem, something, so please forgive me. I will try my best to explain you about my subject so that you can understand nicely. We understand, see, that this virtual meeting cannot replace physical meeting, very difficult, but only the option available is this is the best option. So this way we can interact nicely. So I will start before coming to my real work. I will give, since I'm coming from the cancer hospital, so I think I should introduce you a little bit about the cancer and then what other works is going on in my laboratories and about our institute. So if you see, this is a bridge. I'm sure you all can see the bridge. And in this bridge, there are two center connectors. One is called CRI and another one is called CRC. CRI, you see the scientists are working, pipetting nicely. And CRC, you see the patient, doctor are treating the patient. and there is a bridge. And the purpose of this bridge is to have a better communication between the scientist and clinician for better translational research, for the research that is useful for the human being. So this is a bridge. When I say somewhere in the talk that, okay, this is a bridge, people ask whether this bridge really physically exists or it's hypothetical. No, this is a bridge that physically exists. We have this bridge that physically exists and that connects both scientists and clinicians. So we are ACTREC under the umbrella of Tata Memorial Center, Advanced Center for Treatment, Research, Education in Cancer. So I like this line very much. Before wherever I go, I definitely read this line that see genome sequence now accumulated so quickly that in less than a week, a single laboratory can produce more bits of data than Shakespeare managed in a lifetime. See, a single laboratory, my laboratory or any laboratory, they can produce more bits of data than Shakespeare managed in a lifetime. So interesting lines. Okay. But you know what is more interesting? Here it is written more bits of data. Now the question is, what about the result out of this data? It is not mentioned that more bits of results, more bits of outcome, more bits of data. So now the challenge is how to analyze the data. Huge amount of data, so much data is available. So now the challenge is for the scientists and clinicians both have to understand the importance of availability of a data and how to curate these data to bring out some novel thoughts, novel mechanism, either for diagnosis or prognosis. So see, I like these slides also very much. I'm sure there are so many young students, young scientists will be listening me. I like this slides.
Sir, please.
Sir.
We can see a gray colored small window on the right hand side. Will you be able to minimize it, sir?
This now it is fine.
Perfectly
this is not
fine.
From my
Thank
side.
you very much.
It was sorry. So this is digital. I'm sorry. Means if anything happens, please stop me. I will correct myself.
Thank
So
you.
I like this slide very much. See, when you know, if I say all my young students to work hard, your approach should be systematic, they will listen me. But the same something has been if some novel laureate says, if Nobel laureate said that, okay, you should do like this, then everybody will listen this. Everybody means focus this. Everybody listen us also. But in general, so see what happens when there was a Nobel Prize, Nobel laureates, and he got a Nobel Prize using determining one structure, and that is the chloride ion channel structure. He get to determine the structure, and this was very useful. So when he determined the structure, everybody say he use our stuff. He use means everybody it is that he use our mechanism. He was very good to us, and so when he was working, when he read that people are saying that chloride ion channel featured prominently as an example of an important protein structure determined with the help of a high throughput technique. So people are saying he determined because of a high throughput technique. And what else? Furthermore, they are saying that chloride ion channel structure could not have been done without automation. See, when he read this, so when he read this news, he said, we used no automation or high throughput method to solve the chloride channel structure. Indeed, high throughput method have played no part in any of the difficult ion channel structure determinations completed in my laboratories. So what was how he got the success? See, he is saying our success has rested solely on the intense focus, hard work, and thoughtful approach of a small group of scientists intent on solving an important problem in biological chemistry. See, very good message for the scientific community given by the scientists. So to do better research, this is not message for the young people, this is message for me also, that to do the best research, looking at the situation, you don't have to go Harvard, Princeton, MIT and all talk big. Sitting anywhere, if you have intense focus on whatever the objective you have, and if you are working hard and your approach is thoughtful and you have a very good members in the team, this is very important. Team member really play very important role for the betterment of a research or anything. So the focus you will get the results. It doesn't matter sitting anywhere. So anywhere you will get the success if you have a kind of intense focus, hard work, and thoughtful approach. So then he's further saying, I do not wish to join, and we also don't want to wish to join this unwanted debate. But I wanted to communicate the message that yes, to do better research nowadays, looking at the infrastructure, and thanks God, thanks to our government, I think in our country we have very good infrastructure to do very good research. From this, I will go to discuss little bit about the cancer. You see, global burden of disease, 50 cancer. If you see the total burden, the cancer is second most after cardiovascular. It is second most, and some mental disorders. But if you see the hospital, so many cancer hospital, grant announcement, so much grants announcement, too much. People, everybody is talking, oh, he has cancer, oh my God, he got the cancer. So why it is? It is because this is one of the leading cause of death in the world and represents a tremendous burden on patient, family, and society. And if you see the biostatistics, the meeting of 12 September 18, new global cancer data suggests that global cancer burden has risen to 18.1 million cases and 9.6 million cancer deaths. And do you know this line, I cut this line. By the year 2030, the number will be 26.4 million cancer cases, 17 million deaths, 75 million people living with the disease. So I cut this line because I don't like this line. And I know you all don't want to see this line. But is it a solution? Cutting a line is a solution? No. You can cut this line only if our ability to prevent, diagnose, and treat cancer improve. If it doesn't improve, then you have to face, you have to read the lines. So let's jointly, we all young students, all faculty, please join together to handle this disease, and let's see, we should use no cancer now. But you know, it is not that you can say that, okay, you want to see cut the line, you cut the line, and you are talking very good. But what about you? What is your contribution? Eh? So it is not that you can say one scientist is not working. You can say one institute is not working. You cannot say whole world is not working when the statistics is going up. Eh? So it is a challenge. It's really challenging. It's cancer is not a one-step disease. It's a really challenge in treating cancer. Every tumor is different, and every cancer patient is different. When the parameter is defined, for example, physics, every branch of a science has its own importance. We have gone to the Mars and now heading towards other planets. So when the parameter is well defined, there is a success. Scientists are working. But when we talk about the biological system, complex biological system, it's really very difficult. So it's not a scientists and clinicians are not working. They are working and there is a success. But there is a challenge in understanding the biological system and understanding the cancer biology. So what kind of a success is there? If you see the incidence for lung cancer, number one, overall, you see mortality is also number one. But the incidence for the breast cancer, number two. But if you see the mortality, it is gone to the number five. That means success is there. At the incidence, you see the incidence, and if you see the mortality. So there are some cancers, they are treatable if detected early. There are different grade of a cancers. If they are detected early, can be nicely treated. A person can spend nice life without means without any fear of a cancer. If it is detected rightly, recognized on the right time, then the life will be very easy. So these are the statistics. So there is a success. I'm sure there is a success, and that the success is to the hard work of a scientists and clinicians. So I will talk. I'm just showing one slide for about one gene that is called BRCA1 and BRCA2. You see the BRCA1. This is the breast cancer gene and very big gene, 1863 amino acids, close to 220 kilodalton protein. And in this protein, you all might have heard the name of Angelina Jolie, and she has done something only because of mutations that has been identified on this gene BRCA1. She found that the C is a carrier of a mutations of a BRCA1. So what BRCA1 mutations should do? So I will be describing. When you understand my subject, then I'm sure something will come out. So what the mutations do? So this is a 1863 amino acid. If mutations are lying at this region, then we can say, okay, study, focus this domain and then find out some mutation. If mutations are lying somewhere else or a particular region, you know, mutations has been identified throughout of 1863 amino acid, different region of this protein. There is no confined domain where we can say that mutations are only at this region. And these all are a number of binding partners. So when we work on this protein, see, then it comes to the technology. We have to clone this whole protein. We have to purify whole protein, and then we have to crystallize whole protein, which that has not been done so far. So not only me, people across the world, they are working, and success may come. Let's see. So if this whole protein we cannot purify it because of a technical issue, or protein is not soluble, then what to do? We have to work on domain. This domain, this is called ring finger domain. This is the DNA binding domain. This is the challenging task for me. What is my message? See, when DNA damage occurs, then the sensor molecule senses, and then this BRCA1, not only this, along with so many others, it go to the damaged side and repair. It is very easy to say. But what is the molecular association? If anyone, any scientist, including me or across the world, can determine the crystal structure of this domain in complex with the DNA, then we can really understand, okay, these amino acids are responsible for DNA repair mechanism. But so far it has not been explored. We have no structure detail available for this. What is available? Very small, little information about BRCT domain. X-ray structure is available with the complex peptide, not a protein, not protein complex is available. Only this domain with the small portion of these binding partner has been reported, and very small region of a ring finger of this in complex with the BRD1 NMR structure is reported. So when I come to the technical part, I will explain you how X-ray structure looks like, how NMR structure looks like, and how we unravel the function based on the structure. So this is about BRCA1 and BRCA. So you know, I'm talking about, okay, this is the complexity. So what has been done? It's, as I said, it's not that success is not there. Since the 26 years is gone since the discovery of this genetic testing for breast and ovarian cancer susceptibility has become integrated into the practice of clinical oncology, and genetic testing is started in our Tata Memorial Hospital also. So you can say the BRCA1 has implicated interaction with more than 25 different proteins. And as I said, that the carrier of a germline mutation in BRCA1 have an increased risk of developing breast and ovarian cancer, and clinically important deletion, truncation, and missense mutations that presumably affect the ability of a BRCA1 to interact with other proteins and perform some function have been identified throughout of 1863 amino acids. So, you know, this is the message for the scientists or students, that sometimes we say our culture is not growing, our experiment is not working, but when the human is, when we are discussing about the human life, the very serious approach needed, very serious approach needed. So as I said, when the DNA damage occurs, the sensor molecules sense the DNA damage. Then with the different other proteins, they make the complex and they perform different kind of functions for the repair mechanisms. So let's see genomics little bit. I will talk about the genomics. So someone identify the mutations, and then they have to provide that mutations to the different database. I would like to tell you all these databases are freely available for academic user, freely available. So you don't have to go. There is a BIC, it has changed the name, it become CleanWare. This BIC, more than 1600 genetic variants had been identified in the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes, and it is available. Now, if there is a variant, that does not mean because of a variant someone get cancer. It's not necessary. So these variants may be non-deleterious mutations, or they are simply polymorphisms of without any clinical significance, or sequence variants of unknown significance. So now the challenge is for all of us that out of 1600 genetic variants, see if you see this graph, out of 1600 genetic variants, 2% has been identified as neutral, 5% are deleterious, and with the unknown, how many are? 93%. See the challenge. How much data is available to explore this data and categorize? Still a 93% are sequence variants of UVS and variants of unknown significance. And then we need to know how these variants are, whether means they are responsible for tumor formation, they are pathogenic or not. This is still challenge. So we have already identified few mutation in BRCA1 from Indian family, and I have collaboration with Russian also. So my Russian counterpart is mapping cancer causing mutation in Russian family. And to our finding, we have identified some novel mutations that has been identified in the human Indian population, and some are the previously also reported mutations, and several more novel mutation would be identified in the larger cohort of a patient sample that is currently being sequenced. So see, just see at the nucleotide level, see ACT, this is the control sample, ACT, CAT. And you see here ACT, CAA, CAT, it should be T, ACT, CAT, and CAA. So this histidine in this region, this histidine to the Q, glutamine, histidine to glutamine. This single mutations is responsible for, you see the family pedigree here, this is the family pedigree. Now, if you see the structures, you see the role of a basic science, how basic science can help for doing better translational research. This is a simple sequence alignment of a BRCA1 gene, sequence homology. And you see this histidine, you see this histidine at 1686 position, it is very much conserved. Now you see this histidine is very much conserved, but in some population there is a alterations, there is a mutations. That means something is definitely wrong. See this here it is showing it is conserved throughout of the species, and in one population somewhere it is a mutated. That see the basic science is showing here it is conserved and somewhere is getting mutated, then definitely something is wrong, somewhere is alarming. So this is the role of a how basic science provide information to the clinicians. And we have identified some of the mutations, those are from India. See, these are the mutations that is from Indian population, and we identify there were the pathogenic mutations. And this is a IARC, International Association of Research in Cancer. If IARC is saying they are classified as class 5, so all whatever the mutations we have identified, they are class 5 mutations and they are definitely pathogenic. And this has been correlated with the family pedigree. They are the responsible, they are a kind of a, they are a, having some, they are affected families. From genomes to come to the protein, once we have protein, so you have a kind of a control that either you can take the serum protein or you can tissues from this and compare both. And once you compare, then you can identify, see, this is your aim, whether you want to find out the extra spot or missing spots. And now this is the mass spectrometry based technique. All these information in a click away, you know, we can identify. You have a one gel, you have another gel, and if you don't have high throughput, you don't have computational facility, very difficult to see. So the challenge with infrastructure, very good infrastructure is available, and you can identify which spots is extra, which spot is missing. And once you identify the protein, then it comes to the structure part. So I start from molecular biology, gene sequencing, then proteomics, then go for the structure, determine the structure, look at the bioactive core, if needed can determine some, can identify some small molecules, and then further needed go for synthetic chemist and then go for trial. So this is the overall goal of my laboratory. This kind of a work is going on in my lab. See, now come to the crystallography, macromolecular crystallography, and this branch of a science. See, first in India started in the BRC and Bangalore. In BRC, Professor K. Kannan, and Bangalore, Professor M. Vijayan. You know, Professor M. Vijayan is the one who started crystallography. Means earlier were there. He was the one trained crystallographer who came from England to India, and he started working nicely. And then you see, as time goes, AIMS, Professor T.P. Singh, NIII. Now we have a very good facility all over country. I don't want to say as a facility we have in one home. Of course, to do better research, you have to come out. You need to look, see what is missing now. You see all over the country, we have very good macromolecular facility, and the facility is available in ECTREC also. So nothing is missing now. So if anything is missing, thoughtful approach and hard work. So what is X-ray crystallography? The study of three-dimensional structure of biological molecules and their mutual interaction as a means of understanding the biological function. So there are different techniques, X-ray also, NMR also, EM also, number of techniques is available. I'm talking about the X-ray, and I will say X-ray is better. It's not because I'm working in the X-ray. Everything, all the branch of science has its own importance. Someone has advantage, someone has disadvantage. So X-ray also have advantage, X-ray also have disadvantage. So X-ray enables scientists to determine precise position of each atom and molecule present in crystallographic form. I will tell you, I will definitely define you guys that how true I am. My statement is X-ray enables the scientist to determine precise position of each atom and molecule present in crystallographic forms. And we work on the proteins, you know, protein, small molecules, protein are work on molecules that make all possible activities in our body. And the structure, what structure offer all these statement I will show you when I go show you the real presentation. It offers the clue about the role it plays in the body, and it also holds the key of developing new medicine materials and diagnostic procedure. So it can ultimately provide that mechanism behind the biological functions, understand new how biological molecules functions and how biological molecules looks like. So X-ray, it is a kind of a, you know, how when we go home, how someone recognizes us. They recognize us then when they see our face. Similarly, it is very important for us to know how disease looks like. Unless until we don't know how disease looks like, what are you going to target? So it is very important to know how disease looks like to recognize the disease and how disease recognize something. This can be unraveled only when we have the structure of disease associated molecules. Okay, so to do this kind of a work, it is not very easy. It's very easy. I'm saying structure. You have to work on the wet laboratories. You have to do cloning, molecular cloning, and then protein part and protein purification. You have to purify the protein. This kind of a protein, purified protein. Once you have this kind of a pure protein, then you need to spend time in the X-ray laboratories also. People are saying, oh, X-ray, X-ray, X-ray. They get scared with the name of X-ray. I will tell you guys, X-ray, whatever we are using, it is a really very safe, very, very safe. How it is safe, I will give you the evidence. And then after X-ray, you have to spend time in the computation also. So those who are a kind of a complete macromolecular crystallographer and a structure biologist, he need to accept the challenge that he is willing to work in the wet laboratories also, and he is willing to work in the X-ray laboratory. You don't have to be there in the X-ray all the time. As long as just you fractions of a time, you fraction of a minute you need to be there, or then you don't have to spend much time on X-ray, and of course much time needed on the computational work. So most of the time when students comes, they ask me, now students, of course it should be very intelligent question. They ask very intelligent question. They ask that I'm joining your group and tell me how it is to crystallize the protein. Will I get the crystal, or I will submit my thesis for 5 years, no crystal, then it will be problem for me. So my message to the scientific community or every young students is there that see the maximum number of Nobel Prize. The maximum number of Nobel Prize has been awarded on this branch of a science, macromolecular crystallography and structure biology. Physicists got the Nobel Prize using this, chemists got the Nobel Prize using this, biologists got Nobel Prize using this, and medicine fellow clinician also got the Nobel Prize using based on the how they determine the structure. And since maximum number of Nobel Prize is available, that means it is really worth to study. But see, everything is not very easy. You have to work hard. So if anyone understands this, then I assure you the success rate will be more. So what in this graph I teach my students most of the time that please understand this graph. This is we have a protein. You have done the cloning, you purified protein, and you have very good protein in your hand. Now you need to crystallize the protein. So you need to have a crystallization buffer. So this is a line for the crystallization buffer. We are calling this is a precipitant, and this is a for protein, whatever protein you have. The very important is the protein should be highly purified. When students come to me and they say so many other junk, I don't recommend unless until they don't have highly purified protein. So once you have highly purified protein and precipitant both, you mix it. As long as you are at this level, you will be, protein will be in the soluble fractions. It will be clear drop. It will not, means you, the way you are having protein, it will looks like this only. But suppose you increase the protein concentration, you increase the precipitant, then protein will precipitate. So in this region, protein is either in the clear drop, or in this region, protein is precipitated. Now the challenge is you need to bring the region between clear drop and precipitant, this region. And this region is called nucleation. At this region, all the atom and molecules start coming in a systematic manner. What is crystal? Crystal is called three-dimensional, regular and repeating arrangements of atom and molecules. All the atom and molecules will come in a very systematic manner, and I will show you. So from soluble region to the precipitant region, you need to get, and if you understand this region, then definitely you will be getting the crystals. And there are different methods. One is called sitting drop method, hanging drop method. Several methods are available. And in this sitting drop method, we have a protein. As I said, we need protein and we need the reagent, a kind of a precipitate, crystallization wafer. We mix both together. When you mix both in the sitting drop is sitting nicely. And then you see the protein concentration gone down, because suppose you are 10 milligram per ml and you added this reagent also, so it become 5 milligram. Protein concentration gone down. Okay. Similarly here, this is the hanging drop. In this hanging drop, the drop is hanging. Protein and buffer both are there, but drop is hanging. So surface tension hold the drop. What happens? It is called diffusion method. So here when protein concentration is diluted, then water molecules start coming from here to here. Similarly, water molecules start coming from here to here. So when water molecules start going down, so protein concentration started going up. And when protein concentration started going up, your aim is to bring this position, and then at that time protein you will get this kind of a beautiful crystal. These all are different beautiful crystals in my laboratories. Once you have these beautiful crystals, you need only one crystal, and there are different methods. This is earlier methods, old capillary, sealed capillary. They were having capillary and they were sucking the crystals and they were packing both way. And this crystal they can take in the hand and go anywhere all over the world and collect the X-ray diffraction data. Right now we have this modern, and in this modern, this is the kind of a crystal, and the crystal is cryo protected. And the cryo protectant are around the crystals, because X-ray is coming. X-ray will pass from the crystal. X-ray will give nice bath to the crystals, and when this high energy X-ray comes, if the crystal is not cryo protected, it will die. So because of how stable is crystals, so we need to cryo protect these crystals. And once you have these crystals, see, this is very important method. This method is, this is just like a kind of a overall science is same, microscope and X-ray. So this is just in microscope, suppose this is an object and you see the enlarged image of this object. So this is the magnified image of this object. But in case of a crystal, we cannot see we don't have anything that can resolve atomic association. So suppose this is a crystal and X-ray goes, falls on this crystal, it gives the diffraction pattern. So here is the crystal, here is the crystallographer. So object lens, that is the here crystallographer. So when X-ray falls on the crystal, it gives the electron density. it gives the diffraction pattern. And there is a one physics that is called Fourier synthesis. You can call physics or can call mathematics. That is involved that convert diffraction pattern into the electron density. Okay, so this is the, see, as I said in the beginning, that we have very safe X-ray generator, and this X-ray generator can have maximum 4 to 5 kilovolts, current 60 milliampere, energy is close to 8 kilo electron volt, and this is a kind of a different setup. I just wanted to introduce you guys that there is a different targets. We have a copper anode. So copper CuK alpha, it generates the different wavelength, and that wavelength is coming out from this and producing the X-ray. So this module are incorporated into safe, friendly, and very visually pleasing design. See, visually is not, don't make a unwanted noise and scare you. So very visually pleasing design, and then all these are means very much convenient for us to work in this environment. So as I said, copper K alpha. So copper K alpha produces two wavelength. Sorry, copper produces two wavelength. One is K alpha and one is K beta. So, but we need only CuK alpha. So there is a filter in the X-ray. There is a optics, and there is a filter. That filter absorb K beta, and allows CuK alpha to come out. So when Cu alpha come out, so what is the wavelength is coming out from the X-ray source? CuK alpha. You know, this wavelength I don't think can go more than a meter, and even if they go more than a meter, I will show you. We have very good arrangements. Then there is a cryo system. It is nicely cryo protected, and this is the image plate, and this is the oral arrangements. So this is a X-ray on. This is the optics. The crystal is here, and this is a detector, automatic detector, and this is the glass seal. So it is very much safe. People can work here, and you can have tea, coffee, because when data collection is going on, data collection sometimes go day and night. But we don't allow tea, coffee because you know our system doesn't permit this. Otherwise, this is very much safe to work. And once you have the crystal that diffracted, you get this kind of a diffraction spot. This diffraction spot. Now you see this is the first image, one image. This one image will give you diffraction spots. Okay, and in this diffraction spots, you know, now the challenge is which diffraction spots I need to select. That cannot be done by manual. It is impossible. So that is only possible with the help of a computational facility. So that means earlier people was not working. I will talk about that. Now if the computer, what computer and algorithms, and it is very serious algorithms, very serious science behind it. Computational biologist has to understand the crystallography. So if we need this particular spot that we need to select, we selected these spots. Some particular spot that has that kind of intensity, partly select, and some particular spot that have different kind of intensity, reject. So this is a kind of a this is a red line that is rejected spots, and the yellow spots they are partly accepted, and this green is fully accepted. So this is one image, and this kind of image sometimes based on the symmetry we collect a 90 image, we collect 180 image, we collect 360 image, and you see doing manually, analyzing all these image manually and solving a structure, and then it's very difficult, and I would say impossible. Manually is impossible. But suppose some crazy fellow would like to do manually. So you know someone is writing, if I have a protein crystal of 100 amino acids and I do all these manually, then it will take him 25 years to determine one complete structure. So see, if I become crazy, then I will not submit this. My daughter will submit this in 25 years. So this is the importance of the high throughput method, how computational facility that help you out, and in a click away you can analyze all 360-degree image, all 360 images, and scale down. I don't use it, it will be different signs. So this kind of a diffraction spots we get, and this kind of a resolution also we get. So resolution, see this kind of electron density from the diffraction spot to the electron density, how it comes. I think I will show you now this some interesting results. So I will give the I will share another stuff. So just hold on, give me time. I will stop this. I'm sharing another things to you guys. You see this now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I will show you some gentle stuff so that you can understand, and then I will. Now I'm showing some gentle stuff. All right. Now you see this. First of all, see what we get. We get from the X-ray, we get this kind of electron density. This we get diffraction spot, and from the spot we get electron density. So everything computer don't do. Scientist hand has to work. If computer do everything, then why scientist need it? Scientist hand ultimately has to work. But you know, there are a protein, and protein is made up of mainly 20 amino acids. So looking at the electron density, scientists will realize, okay, this electron density looks like this particular amino acids. So when we analyze, so now I will show you. So we found that this electron density, the electron density of phenylalanine, phenylalanine, one amino acid. This is the electron density of another phenylalanine. Okay, this is the electron density of another amino acid, glutamic acid, GLU. See, very good electron density. Okay, now what I said, what I told you guys at the beginning, that X-ray crystallography help us to determine precise position of each atom in a three-dimensional environment. Now how true I am, I'm telling you guys. See, this is one amino acid that is called glutamic, GLU. And in this GLU, you see, this is a C alpha. I know you. This is the C alpha of GLU. One carbon, C alpha carbon. This C alpha carbon is located. If you see at the bottom, you see the cursor at the bottom. This is coordinate X, Y, Z. Okay. This is the location of this C alpha that is showing X, Y, and Z. All right. Then another parameter is here that is called occupancy and B factor. B factor we also call thermal parameter. And the occupancy is called 1. This is occupancy is 1. You see occupancy. Occupancy indicates the location of an atom. That means this is the XYZ here for this, and only in this occupancy is 1, so only one atom can locate. So this is the location of one atom. Now this is one amino acids, and this is the location of a C alpha, and now you see this is the location of a C beta, XYZ, occupancy 1. This is the location of C gamma. This is the location of C delta, and this is the location of a oxygen. This is the location of oxygen. So you know we have found 3 atomic position in 3-dimensional environment. How 3-dimensional? See, this is a complete structure, 3D structure. And this 3D structure, I will show you some more things. So this is the 3-dimensional, it is unit cell, all right. In this unit cell, this is a one molecule is located there. And in this one molecule, you see, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, you are identifying the location of each atom, each atom. This is the 3-dimensional environment. In this 3-dimensional environment, see, this is A, B, C, and you see exact position of each atom. And this is the electron density. This electron density tells you that in this location, this kind of a bulk, only valine is here. This is the electron density for histidine. Okay. This is another amino acid, more prominent, very good. Something I want to show you some interesting, that is called tryptophan. If you see the tryptophan, very good amino acid. See, do you see this is the electron density of a tryptophan? This is the electron density of a tryptophan. Now, I'm saying in this position, only each atom means only tryptophan can be located. No other amino acid can be located. So some scientists, some say no, sir, some other amino acid can also be located. So let's do that work. I'm mutating this. I'm mutating this tryptophan using these 20 amino acids. There are 20 amino acids listed. Anyone tell me that besides tryptophan, this amino acid can be fit here? Anyone, please? Which one I should try? Anyone? Which amino acids? Otherwise, I will try myself. Amen.
Alanine, maybe.
Alanine? Okay. So I'm mutating
Phenylalanine.
Phenylalanine. Oh, very good. Fantastic. Very intelligent question. So I mutated. See, this is the phenylalanine. Eh? And if you mutate with this phenylalanine, if my students come with me and say, sir, phenylalanine is fitting here, then I'll say, okay, no, you one more year you need to sub before you need sub. See, phenylalanine is not fitting here. See, very nicely we have mutated phenylalanine, but you see the electron density, there is some more electron density. That means some other amino acids. Shall I try other amino acids? Okay, let's try other amino acid. Any other amino acid.
Histidine. Somebody is saying histidine.
One of
Histidine.
the participants
Okay.
has mentioned.
Yes, histidine. Yes, histidine. I mutated with histidine. See, this is histidine. Histidine is smaller than then. No. This is not histidine. So in this position, where this, when 3-dimensional environment is there, in this position, only tryptophan TRP can be accommodated. No other amino acids can be accommodated in this region. No other amino acid. That's the beauty of and preciseness of this branch of science. In this position, only tryptophan can be located. Most of the time, when people talk, so this is I told. I will show you something. I will talk that cannot be seen in the using the textbook. Everything you can read from the textbook. If you see the overall structure, globular structure of a protein, hydrophobic amino acids are buried in the core, hydrophilic are at the surface and surrounded by water molecules. Let's see the proof. Go in the core. See, these dotted line, these dotted line are the water molecules. See the location of water molecule, how beautiful water molecule is defined here. See, this is the water molecule. Okay, so water molecule are at the surface. Where they are located? See, they all water molecules are located at the surface. See, this is the water molecule. This is the water molecule, nicely located at the surface. Now let's go on the core. I will take you guys to the core. See, this is the hydrophobic core. Do you see any water molecule here in the hydrophobic core? There is no water molecule. So hydrophobic amino acids are buried in the core, and you come at the surface. These hydrophilic are at the surface surrounded by water molecules. So hydrophobic amino acids are buried at the core, hydrophilic are at the surface surrounded by the water molecule, and all these they stabilize three-dimensional structure of a protein. So I'm sure now you understand this is the X-ray structure. So suppose we want to determine the complex. I will make more clear. I will remove this now. Okay, and now display manager. Let's go. Sorry. Let's go on the display manager. Sorry, something happens. Okay, no problem. All right, I don't want to change. So now most of the time what people say, okay, you are showing the structure of a crystal that is in the solid state, but protein, when protein is active, it is in the liquid state. Then how you are sure that this is the way how protein is present in the liquid state also. So there is other methods that is called NMR. NMR structure can help you, can tell you, yes, this is the structure from the liquid state also. But crystal, from the crystal, see, if you see, I'll show you something. You see the occupancy is 1. Occupancy is 1, that means only in this location one atom can be accommodated. But when the occupancy is different, I will show you different dynamic nature, or I'll show you. See here. See here, you see this aspartic acid. One region is going this side and one region is going this side. So what is the occupancy here? 0.5. This is the asp here, C gamma of asp, and this is the C gamma of asp. So both are located. One C gamma is here and one C gamma is here. So we cannot simply see it is a kind of a stable structure. So there are thermal parameters that can define the mobility of an atom also. So that we can determine with this. Now I want to show you that I definitely would have to show you now. So this is about X-ray. Okay. Some more thing was missing. I will come. So now suppose when we talk about the protein structure, let me remove the electron density and see. I'm showing you guys C alpha. See, this is the protein. Overall, C alpha means side chain I have removed for better clarity. So this is one protein and this is another protein complex. This is the complex. Okay, you guys see the complex. Now this is another complex. Okay, 1 minute, let me go. I will show you the complex. Where is the complex? If this is the complex structure, yes, this is the complex. This is the complex. All right. So you have one protein and in complex with other protein. Okay. Now you saw. I will show now C alpha. So that okay, and I will show you electron density. So the complex you need to see. You need to recognize where the complex is gone. Okay. So I will find out the complex for you and will tell you the importance Okay. Yes, I found that. So this is the phosphorylated serine, and this phosphorylated serine kinase is making complex with other amino this protein. And let's see, suppose you want to measure the distance, from this to this. What is 2.64 angstrom? See the distance we can measure. So when we talk about the drug design and development, distance between this and this water molecule 4.51 angstrom. Distance between this and this, how much? 2.8 angstrom. So atomic association, this how far is this 2. See, this is exact how beautifully we can determine location of each atom and molecules. You measure the distance between this and this. See the important, suppose you want to measure the dynamic distance, you click here, you can find out the distance of all the, I need to clear all the atom, all the distance, clear, okay. Now, I don't want to click something else that will disappear all of a sudden. So this is how we can determine complete atomic association, and this is very much helpful when we talk about the drug design and development, structure guided drug design and development. Now you see, I will show you other structure that is called NMR structure. I will remove this X-ray structure, electron density, and I am showing you NMR structure. And this is NMR structure. Different in symbols of NMR structure. So NMR structure is also important. It's very valuable. So you see what kind of information you can get precisely with the help of NMR. I will tell you. This, see, you got the folding pattern. There are two protein, one protein this, another protein this. How nicely they are bound. And you know, see here how they are defining this region, how disordered this region. When protein is not crystallizing, see, because this region is looks very disordered. This region looks very disordered. So if someone chop out this region and purify other protein, they may get the crystal structure also. So this is how NMR structure looks like. I think earlier speaker might have explained you all this. So this is all about the structure part. Now I will come back to the slide, my presentation. So I will stop sharing this. I will come back to the again. Now you guys can see this. So this is the, you saw the coordinate X, Y, Z. Aspartic acid, asp, nitrogen of phos, location X, Y, Z, occupancy 1, thermal parameter, and this thermal parameter is a measure of mobility of an atom. So in three-dimensional environments, you can determine precise position of each atom and molecules. All right, now. So how crystals are symmetrical? There are different folds, and you know, if we understand the folding pattern, then crystal structure they folds in a different way. I think I will, if the time permit, I can go back again and then explain you. So it folds two-fold, and then there is a symmetry. Symmetry means after performing some particular operation, things remains unchanged. So this is a graph that shows two-fold, means if you rotate 180 degree, things will remain unchanged. This is for three-fold, four-fold, and six-fold. So this is the crystal, this is the structure. What kind of a rotational symmetry is two-fold? What kind of a rotational symmetry is four-fold? What kind of a rotational symmetry is three-fold? If you rotate 20 degree this to this, you will get this structure. So this way how structure, how molecules, atom and molecules are arranged in a three-dimensional environments. So these are how we number alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. So I'm sure, I don't think I need to explain this slide. Everybody who has attended my talk, please read this line, and I'm sure you don't need explanation of this. Protein normally have a surface populated mainly with the polar hydrophobic amino acids buried inside the core and tightly packed with the hydrophobic amino acids and surrounded by water molecules. So this is the hydrophobic amino acids, hydrophilic, and this is the globular structure of a protein. So this is the electron density. You know this kind of electron density. This is how we present, how we explain, okay, how atom and molecules are associated. See, this is the, actually I shown you this because I was not expecting sometime online demo doesn't work. So this is how pointer, how NMR structure looks like and how X-ray structure looks like. You can define, you can define nicely atomic locations. And you might have seen the two-fold alpha helix. I will explain again two-fold alpha helix, beta sheets. I will show again beta sheets. I think I need to go back. And then primary structure. This is how there are motifs: turn helix, helix, loop helix, and then R factor. See, when I was showing you the electron density, sometimes someone say, no, here not we can keep phenylalanine. Tryptophan is not there, or we can keep histidine, or we can keep glycine, and then they keep on doing and keep on explaining. So this is a alert that is called R factor. So if R factor is going up, means you are going in the wrong direction. R factor, it tells you what is the best fit between observed value and calculated. You determine from the X-ray and how you are fitting everything in the X-ray. Both should superimpose with each other and the differences should come less. If the differences is less, that means whatever has been observed has been calculated. But if the differences is more, that means we are going somewhere wrong direction. So if you refine, we call refinement. When you refine during refinement cycle, when R factor going up, that means you are keeping wrong amino acid in the somewhere in the electron density. So when you keep the right amino acid, then the R factor will come down. So these are the different parameters that alert you while determining the protein structure, whether it is going in the right direction or wrong direction. Tertiary structure, you know, it is a three-dimensional. When combined, fold, domain, all these they combine, it forms tertiary structure. And quaternary structure, it describes the way in which individual polypeptide chains, monomer, dimer, that kind of thing. So this is about the quaternary structures. So you see the primary structure looks like this, secondary structure looks like this, and tertiary structure looks like this, and quaternary structure looks like this. I will come to back to the, and this once you have determined, once you are done with the structure, then you need to go to the submit the coordinate, and you see the PDB protein data bank. One thing I would like to define you guys, and I will talk about that. If you find any scientist who is very generous, you can say he is definitely doing crystallography, because crystallographers are very generous. They perform the research, they devise something, they design something and make freely available for everybody to use. So for protein data bank, it is freely available. You guys can, you don't have to go anywhere, and now internet is available in the laptop, in your mobile also. You can, so far I see, I think yesterday only I was 179,000 protein structure has been reposited in the PDB and the repository, where X-ray structure, NMR structure, electron microscope, all these details can be given. And then, you know, when we talk about, as I said that I'm keep on talking about the mutations, you see there is a one protein, and in this protein, when there was a wild type, there was no mutations. So see how it is nicely weak intermolecular interactions are assigned. When there is a mutation, see the folding pattern got changed. Wild type, very nice. Folding pattern mutations, folding pattern got changed. So when the protein folding is lost, protein folding pattern is disturbed. So we are sitting here, we are nicely talking because the protein present in the body is active, well folded. And when the folding pattern is lost, then the bioactivity, all these parameters, that causes the disease. So these weak intermolecular interaction that we can determine with the help of a X-ray help us to unravel pathogenicity of mutations identified in the different populations. Then you identify, see, this is the molecular surface, this is the molecular surface, and this is the binding partner. So when protein bind to another protein, then function associated to protein-protein interaction is there. One protein binding to this protein. Then there is a function associated to protein-protein interaction. But you see, when there is a mutation, there is a one mutation in this location, there was methionine, and it got mutated from methionine to arginine. When it got mutated methionine to arginine, see, this one single amino acid is not allowing this guy to bind on this, there is making steric classes. And when this is not binding to this, then function associated to protein-protein interaction is lost, and this is very well documented that this mutation is pathogenic and responsible for tumor formation, responsible for cancer. In the same location, in other population, lysine was located, and see the behavior of arginine is more or less same how lysine is behaving. Lysine is also not allowing this guy to bind to this, and this is what another affected family. So how we describe structure-based approach for the translational research. So, but this is the basic. This has to, you have to know the mutation, what kind of a mutation is there, what, where is located, means which population is the carrier, what you have to compare with the family pedigree. So other component is also there that you have to analyze. So if you see, I will show you some example. Another protein was their receptor associated protein RAP18, and it was having some binding partner, and they were binding nicely. This is the structure based approach. Purified the protein, this is called SPR, and see the wild type is binding nicely. But when there was a deletion at T1 position and deleted protein C, the binding is impaired. This is the binding that got impaired. We are showing the binding. Wild type is binding nicely, and deleted protein is not binding, means binding got impaired. This is in vitro. See the western, wild type is binding nicely, and then the deleted binding is impaired. See the structure, wild type is binding nicely, and the deleted region binding got impaired. So all these multi-model based approach predict that this deletion is definitely responsible for some factors, something that is different than the normal, and that is we have to analyze. So the overall goal is, when there is no binding, then design some small molecules that can through this allow binding, and you identify some small molecule inhibitor, and that search for anti-cancer go on. So these weak intermolecular interactions, they definitely play very serious role when we talk about the drug design and development. Now I will take, I'll come back. So see the structure, it started, means more than 100 years when X-ray was discovered, and then first X-ray diffraction pattern was observed in 1937, and then another, this called Raymond Gosselin, he has identified one diffraction pattern, and they are saying that was the work of Rosalind Franklin. This is another structure, myoglobin and the hemoglobin, and these two scientists got Nobel Prize in chemistry. And then Watson and Crick, everybody knows DNA structure. Dorothy Hodgkins, she determines number of the structures, very good scientist. I have very much respect for her. Because Professor Vijayan, who is the crystallographer, Indian, very good crystallographer, he received the training in her laboratory, And what is very important for Dorothy Hodgkins, she never encouraged any crystallographer to remain in her laboratory. She trained the crystallographer and told them, go back in your country and struggle there and set up the facility, do better science over there. And then Professor Vijayan, you see a contribution from Indian scientist G.N. Ramchandran. This is the Ramchandran plot. I will show you the Ramchandran plot also. This is the modified now. This is the when he was working on the kind of a triple helix structure of a collagen. Now it has been modified, and when Professor Vijayan came back, Professor Vijayan is the first crystallographer who started working on the small molecules. Professor Vijayan first student is Professor T.P. Singh in AIIMS. He is working nicely, very good laboratories. Professor T.P. Singh first student is Professor Tiwari in Gwalior, and I am Ashok Verma, Professor Tiwari first student, sitting and speaking to you guys. Crystal engineering, Professor Desi Raju, unless until we don't have the weak intermolecular interactions, unless until Professor Desi Raju references are not there, very difficult. Means it's pioneer in the crystal engineering. See, Venkatraman Ramchandran also got Nobel Prize in 2009. This is my team. I will not talk about the team. I'm coming back to you on the structure because something I missed. So give me some more time. And I will share something again. Okay, let me share. I'm sharing this and let's go on the X-ray. Okay, see the X-ray structure. In this X-ray structure, go on the sequence, and this is the sequence starts R. This is the first amino acid start from the protein. Arginine 1649, methionine 1650, serine 1651, and then methionine 1652, and valine 1653. So what is this? This is called primary structure. Okay, so arginine amino acid chain. All right, now I will show you helix seed. See, I have to make very clear so that you can see. I will show you. See, do you see very good helical structure here? See, this is the very good helix. And how this helix has come? If you see, and this helical structure, it is not just like this. This is from the electron density. See, this. This is the helical structure, and that is called secondary structures. Seeds, I will show you seeds also. See here, do you see these seeds? Very good seeds, the pillar seeds. See here, these are the seeds, and these seeds has not come just like this. These seeds has come. See, do you see very nice seed? These are the violet seeds. So helix, seed, and turn, all these make primary structure, these secondary structure, and then the tertiary structure, and then the quaternary structure. And how they are associated with the symmetry, I will show you. So this is one molecule, and how other molecule is associated with the symmetrically related. This is other molecule. This is other molecule. See, this is other molecules. So if I improve some parameter, it will be slow down, but I will show you cell and symmetry. I'm increasing 30, and then of course it will be slow down. See here, now this is one molecule. All other molecules, how they are symmetrically related. See beautifully. This is the one molecule, whether it is two-fold or three-fold or four-fold or six-fold, how they are symmetrically located. That can be done with the help of a computational But this has been determined when people were working on the small molecules, when that has 10-20 atoms, and from that small molecules to the big molecules, proteins, and we are in a position now to explore even virus, big proteins, big crystals, big size protein crystals. And I'm happy to inform you guys that we have Syncotan facility in our country also. And beside this, those who have protein crystal, government of India is supporting their trip to the different Syncotan facility, full support, fully funded, your TAD, everything, and then you can collect the data. So this is very good branch of a science, and I would like to really thank you all for listening me, and I think I invite some questions. I will be happy to answer. Thank you so much. I'm thankful for the organizer for giving me chance to discuss with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. I think all the participants will agree with me that it was very thoughtful session, a very intriguing session. I think we have some questions in the chat box. With
Please,
your permission, I'll proceed with the
please,
question.
ma'am, please.
All
Please.
right. So we take up the first question, which is seen in the chat box. It's from Dr. Kamlesh Soni. Dear sir, how to isolate and crystallize membrane-bound protein like GPCR?
Yes, 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 yes. See, very good. So, see, everything is not very easy. And membrane bound protein. See, I'm saying we have 120 kilodalton BRCA1 protein, and I want to express and purify whole 120 kilodalton, but I don't have system that can purify this much. Some people tried in the different baculovirus and insect cell system, and they could they guard somehow from picomolar level of a protein. So when you don't have full protein, then you can go on the sequence analysis, chop down, go on the functional domain, reclone, and then of course membrane protein is really very difficult. There was a recent grant announcement on the membrane protein structure determination. So those who can purify the protein. Yes, difficult for membrane protein purification is difficult, but trial and error, there are different combinations that can that yes, needed more discussion needed on this one.
All right. I think that has answered the question. We go to the next, which is by Sanmukh Priya, madam. She mentions, can you please mention here about the time taken to arrive all the different structures of a protein using this technique?
Time taken means
Yeah.
see, right, very good question. See, earlier when there was no computational facility, then it was taking too much time. People were working on the only small molecules that having 10 atom 20 atom. So for 10-20 atom, even though it was taking them for a month, now for this it is totally based on what kind of a data you have. If you have very good data and high resolution data, then sometime your may determine your protein structure in 6 months. But if it data or everything, your parameters, whatever we say is we determine a kind of a space group, everything is same, everything is precise, then those 6 months may come down to a 6 week also. So it's a matter how what kind of a data you have, what kind of a protein you have. Sometimes what happens to protein, we collect the data and sometimes the data is too much noisy. Data processing itself takes time. But yes, technology has improved. So defining one particular time is very difficult. Sometimes students ask one thing that I think maybe she may be asking, that crystallization. So crystallization, some protein crystallizes in a week, some protein crystallizes in a day, and some protein crystallizes in a 6 month. So it's how protein behaves, individual protein to protein. If someone comes to me and then say, okay, this is the protein, tell me how long will it take to crystallize? I will say unless until I don't crystallize, I cannot tell. So we have to tell, we have to try in different conditions, and whatever conditions you get, you can proceed it. So defining time frame is also very difficult. Yes.
All right. I think she's also added a question. In addition to that, what is the cost of the technique, sir?
Cost of a technique, see, yes, very good question. See, depending upon see, someone is working on the membrane protein, someone is working on a different kind of a protein. When you work on the protein purification, you need different instrumentation. When you work on, means you have a crystal, I have X-ray diffraction that is close to 3.5 crore. So, but nowadays you don't have to get the X-ray. Everybody should not get. I also don't encourage. You crystallize sitting in your laboratories and bring the crystal where the facility is available, collect the data, and then rest of the things you can do in your laptop. So, depending upon means how much infrastructure you would like to build yourself.
All right. She's given another question for us. Is there any variation observed in the structure of protein when compared with other techniques like NMR? And if yes, what would be the percent variation?
So I shown you, na, means NMR is different techniques. NMR is a kind of it provides different in symbols. When we work on the crystal structure, yes, if you have a high resolution data, and sometimes we say atomic resolution 1.1 angstrom, that is really someone is lucky, 1 angstrom, 0.9 angstrom data. If you have atomic resolution, then 100% your structure, the structure of that protein is 100% correct. There is no any ambiguity on that.
All right. The next question by Dr. Bandu. When will get high resolution for protein established by X-ray crystallography? Which factor is vital for obtaining high resolution structure of protein?
Very good question. So the only I will tell you trials and error method. You crystallize the protein, shoot on the X-ray diffraction, check the resolution. Then again make it the bigger size, optimize crystallization condition, optimize buffer conditions, and then check in the diffraction source. When you have this, you find that this particular crystal is diffracting very nicely. Freeze the same crystal, take the same crystal to the synchrotron facility, and collect better resolution data over there.
All right. We have the next question by Dr. Elvis. In your experience, did you find any class or family of proteins which were particularly difficult in terms of crystallization and getting good diffraction pattern?
I found so many proteins, but you know, I'm little bit very strict. I little bit hard working fellow. So I chase the protein. One message to you guys, everybody is, if any experiments realize that this guy is not going to leave me unless until I don't work, I assure you that experiment will work. If you try 1-2 times and experiment, say okay, fine. No, you have to try different combinations, permutation and combination. I assure you the success will be in your hand.
All right. Taking one more question again by Dr. Elvis. What conditions determine the resolution of a X-ray structure?
There is no particular conditions. You have protein crystal size, buffer conditions, facility, synchrotron facility, what is the source, what is the energy, high energy source can give better resolution. There is no particular condition.
All right. I think we are done with the questions from the WhatsApp as well as in the chat box. Are there any hand raises? Anybody wants to have any more question? All right. I think that finishes our question answer session. Thank you very much, Dr. Verma. It was indeed, a great pleasure for us to listen to you and understanding the topic so well in details. Thank you very much. Now I'm handing over the session to Premlata ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dipti, for chairing this session. And thank you very, very much, sir. Really wonderful session. And you have actually taken us through different dimensions. You very lucidly, you have explained the way to look at the primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary structure, how difficult it is for the crystallographer to come out with a structure, and it is meticulously means you have taken us through various dimensions of this X-ray crystallography, and we are really thankful to you, sir, because as a medicinal chemist we have always been like choosing the structure, the high resolved structure we used to choose, and then we used to take it further. for drug discovery and drug designing purpose. But there's a lot of work done behind this, and you have shown how much of time and energy is required. Of course, very motivating lecture. Another thing I would also like to say that you have given us a vision. Be focused, be hardworking. You need to have a very good team, and indeed, like your thoughtful approach is very, very important. So thank you very, very much. As a token of appreciation, we would like to give you we on your behalf, actually we have planted a sapling of marigold in our college campus. So we would like to play a short video for you. Whenever you visit Bombay Culture Pharmacy, we will definitely take you in our garden, and you will get to see the plant which is growing in our campus. So
Definitely,
may I
ma'am.
request yeah, this is a research associate, Mr. Chandan Gupta, who has planted this sapling. Uh, Please go ahead with the video. Chandan?
I'm really thankful to the Chandan. Thank you so much, Chandan. I promise is the plant is really will give oxygen to so many people and flowers. So I'm really thankful to Chandan, and definitely once situation become normal, I will definitely visit, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Do visit, sir, definitely. We, as a as a memory of your association with the FDP program, we also have an e-certificate as a token of appreciation. Thank you very, very much, sir, for taking out time from your busy schedule. And I know that it is so difficult for you to, spend so many hours for us. Thank you very, very much. We are really pleased to have you here, sir. And definitely do visit Bombay College of Pharmacy, sir. Thank you.
And anyone of you have interest on the protein crystallography structure determination, please feel free. Please feel free to visit Tech once the situation become normal.
Thank you very, very much, sir. Thank you. Dr. Elvis, I would request you to take it forward, and in case you have any instructions for for participants, please proceed. Thank you. Dr. Elvis, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, madam. Thank you, Dr. Verma. It was indeed a pleasure listening to you. Thank you, Dr. Deepti, for chairing this session. Before we end for the day, I have a few little instructions for the participants. As per AICT guidelines, it's mandatory to maintain 80% attendance and 60% marks in the assessment tests that we'll be tracking. Feedback links have been already shared for this day. Kindly fill it by 5:30 p.m. today. All participants who do not have access to the chat box that we see is a repeated problem here. So we request you to please put your questions in the chat box in the WhatsApp group. We wish to also notify that tomorrow we will begin at 9 o'clock in the morning. So we request you to join by at least 8:45 to 8:50 a.m. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And I hope everybody a nice, pleasant evening and see you all tomorrow.
We are done.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I can leave the meeting now.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.